Hello, good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to be talking about main idea and details. So we are going to read several passages and we're going to pick out and find the main idea and the supporting details that are in our passages. So the main idea is the topic of a story or a paragraph. It's what it's going to be all about. And then our supporting detail are specific information about the topic sentence using examples or explanations. So our supporting details are information that expands on our main idea. It gives us more, it gives us examples, it explains, it gives us more on what our passage is about. So I have some information to share with you today about sloths. I'm going to read a short little passage, and then we're going to go over what the main idea and the supporting detail is for that short little passage. So sloths spend most of their time in the trees of the rainforest. Sloths eat leaves that they find in the trees. Because sloths spend so much time in the trees, they have a harder time getting around on the ground. They are very slow-moving animals. All right, boys and girls, see, it was just a short little passage. A lot of the time, our main idea can be found in the first sentence of our passage. And for this passage about sloths, that is where our main idea was. We can find it in our first sentence, which is sloths spend most of their time in the trees of the rainforest. Now, your main idea is not always going to be in that first sentence. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It could be in different parts of the reading or the text. But for this one, it was in our first sentence. So always look to your first sentence to begin with and see if it's in there. So now that we have established that that is our main idea, so I gave you more information about the main idea with supporting details. So you got to know more about sloths and how they spend their time in the trees with details like sloths eat leaves that they find in the trees. And sloths spend so much time in the trees that they have a harder time getting around on the ground. So my main idea was that the sloths spend most of their time in the trees, but then I had details and I gave you more information with my supporting details. And got to tell you a little bit more about my main idea. So you got to see more information with those supporting details. All right, boys and girls, so now we are going to get more practice with finding the main idea and details in a text. Now that we know a little bit more about what they are and kind of how to look for them, we're going to keep practicing. And I'm going to model 2 passages, and then I'm going to give you time to work individually on some passages as well. But let's look at the ones together first. We're going to look at the passage titled, How I Make My Lunch. So I'm going to read it aloud to you, and you're going to follow along. And then we're going to talk about the main idea and the supporting details. So it's titled, How I Make My Lunch. I like to make my lunch. I make it every morning before school. First, I make a sandwich. I spread peanut butter on one piece of bread. I spread honey on another piece of bread. Then I put the pieces of bread together. I put the sandwich in my lunchbox. Next, I pack an apple or an orange. The last thing I pack is water. I drink a lot of water. I fill up my water bottle. Then I put it in my lunchbox. I close my lunchbox and I take it to school. So now that we read that passage, boys and girls, we have to fill out a graphic organizer. So I'm going to project that on the screen for you today. All right, as you can see, this is the graphic organizer that we are going to be filling out together. So at the bottom, we have our main idea. We have detail, detail, detail. So our main idea is going to be the cone because it's the thing that's going to support our ice cream. It's what we're going to build off of. And you can think of our main idea as something we build off of. We have that main idea, what we want our passage to be about overall, and then we have details that's supporting it. And that, like I said, that main idea, it's going to hold everything. It's going to be what we're building off of. So when you're writing something yourself too, you think, what do I want it to be about? And then you add to it from there. So that's how we're going to look at it for our reading. So if we look at our graphic organizer, we're going to fill it in based on our reading for the passage, How I Make My Lunch. So how are we going to go about finding what our main idea is? So sometimes, like we saw in our sloth passage, our main idea can be found in that first sentence. So we're going to look at our first sentence, and in fact, for this one as well, our main idea is in that first sentence, and it is, I like to make my lunch. So I want you to, in your passage in your copy, I want you to highlight that main idea. Highlight that main idea, I like to make my lunch. And we can be sure that that is the correct main idea. So you might be like iffy, like how am I sure that that is my main idea? Well, you can turn it into a question. So you can turn that main idea into a question. So our main idea is I like to make my lunch, but we want to be sure we're correct. So we can turn it into a question. And if our question is answered by the rest of the passage, then we know we have the correct main idea and we're right where we need to be. So if I turn this main idea into a question, I can ask, how do you like to make your lunch? And boys and girls, does the rest of my passage answer that question? Yes, indeed it does, yeah, because the passage goes into detail about how the little girl likes to make her lunch. She goes into about how she makes her sandwich, how she packs an apple or an orange, and how the last thing she does is she packs her water. She goes into those details, and it definitely does answer our question that we made. So we're definitely on the right track with our main idea. So next, we want to go into our supporting details. So what are the things that are being added to our main idea? And we can continue to use our question. So what are the things that are answering that main idea question that we just came up with? And the following words that I'm going to give to you too can be signal words. That's a supporting detail. So the signal words can include, for example, because we talked about that supporting details can be examples. It can be that is, and it can also be words such as first, second, third, and finally. Those are all signal words to indicate that those are our supporting details for our main idea. So if you see those words, make sure you say, oh, that could be a supporting detail. And that's something that we need to underline. So in our pencil, we want to go in our reading and we want to underline our supporting details. So here I have my highlighted main idea. So I like to make my lunch, and I've underlined my supporting details. First, I make a sandwich, and so that's a supporting detail, and we see that first. And then next, I pack an apple or an orange, and then the last thing that I pack is a water. So we saw that first, next, those signal words, and last in our passage here. So we knew that those were our supporting details for our text. And if I fill out my graphic organizer, see, now I have all these details. I highlighted, I underlined them, and I know which ones are my main idea, the highlighted, and my supporting details are underlined. So if I were going to fill out my graphic organizer, as I did here, my first one is I like to make my lunch, as we established the main idea, and then first I make my sandwich. Next, I pack an apple or an orange, and the last thing I pack is water. So that's how we would go about filling out our graphic organizer and the things that we should be filling in together, because we first found it in our passage, we highlighted it and underlined the things we needed, and then we put it in our graphic organizer, and we can just look back in that article that we already found all that information is. So now that we've built our ice cream cone graphic organizer, we are going to read one more passage together and do that. So we're going to go to the passage titled Fire the Fish, and I want you to follow as I read along. So Fire the Fish. I have a pet fish named Fire. Fire is an orange fish with a long tail. His big brown eyes stick out of the side of his head. Fire likes to swim. Sometimes, if he is afraid, he hides behind the rocks. He lives in a fish tank. I keep Fire in my room. I clean his tank every week. Fire eats fish food. I feed him every day. When he sees the food in the tank, he swims to the top. I take care of him. Fire is a good pet. Maybe I will get another fish. Then Fire will have a friend. So with this one, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to highlight our main idea. We are going to underline those supporting details. We're going to do the same thing to find it in our passage. So I'm going to, again, as we know, our main idea can sometimes be in that first sentence, and here it is. So I have a pet fish named Fire. So we know our whole passage is going to be about Fire the fish, and we're going to learn more information. And we can turn it into a question like, who is Fire the fish? Or what are some things about Fire the fish that you can tell me? So we're going to see, do those supporting details answer my question? So then I can see that the supporting details definitely, the rest of the passage definitely does answer my question. It goes into detail about who Fire the fish is, what he's like, and details about him. So our main idea is definitely correct. So highlight that first one like how I've done here. Now we're going to find our supporting details that answer our questions about who Fire the Fish is. So some details about Fire the Fish. So some details are Fire is an orange fish with a long tail. This is a describing detail, and it's definitely a supporting detail that we need to underline because it's giving us more information about Fire the Fish. And then also more is Fire likes to swim. So another thing we just learned about Fire the Fish, he loves to swim. And then also Fire eats fish food, and when he sees the food in the tank, he swims to the top, another detail that we found. I want you to note too that in our graphic organizer, there is a main idea and then 3 supporting details. In passages or text, there can be more supporting details. You will find that there doesn't always have to be 3. There could be more than 3. There could be less than 3. But that's just what we were filling out for our graphic organizers. And as you read passages alone individually, boys and girls, you may find that there's more than 3 supporting details. So the point is just to underline all the supporting details that answer your main idea question. So now that we have completed that one, we have seen that our main idea and our supporting details are all there. We've highlighted it, we've underlined it, and it could be something that we easily transfer into our ice cream graphic organizer now that we've pinpointed it out. So now, boys and girls, I'm going to let you have some time to individually work on some passages. You're going to read them, and you're going to highlight the main idea. You're going to underline those topic sentences just like we did together. And you are going to just take that time, read those passages, there's 3 of them, and point out those things within the passages that are given. All right, boys and girls, now that we have kind of finished up our passages, you're all wrapping up, make sure to turn those in. But I just want to wrap up our lesson today. So today we talked about and we defined the following words: main idea and supporting detail. So we know that main idea, we learned that it is the topic of a story of our paragraph. It's what the whole thing is going to be about. And we learned that supporting details are specific information about the topic sentence using examples or explanations. So they can be examples and they can be explanations. They're things that further our knowledge about the topic, about that main idea, and they give us more information. So remember that our main idea can sometimes be found in the very first sentence, but this is not always the case. But go ahead, check that first sentence. Do you think that's the main idea? If you find a main idea, how can you be sure that's the main idea? How can you be 100%? How can you be confident in it? So turn that main idea into a question. And if that question is answered through the rest of your passage, then you are on the right track. Then you have that correct main idea. So, and we also learned our supporting details should answer that main idea question. So we originally had that main idea question to check if we're on the right track. So continue to use that main idea question. What are the things that are answering that question? And those are going to be our supporting the details. Those are the things that are going to explain more about what we have just read. They explain more about our main idea, and they give us examples. They give us explanations and go further into our main idea or our topic. So main idea and supporting details are very important parts in reading, and we should always be on the lookout for whenever we are reading and for when we're writing. So what is the purpose, what is the topic of our passage, what is it all going to be about, and what are the things that supports it? So we always want to be on the lookout for those main ideas, those supporting details in any reading we do. But I want to just say good job, boys and girls, today. I really appreciate all the hard work. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.